Hello creeps! Andy here. Today I have a little kind of Q&A, just, you know, chatty little video. We're going to talk about books or whatever questions you guys have. I asked you over on Instagram if it would be okay if I just did one of these videos for the week because I just have so much to catch up on. My videos have been really inconsistent lately and I gotta get on some sort of schedule. So I asked you guys if you had any questions that you wanted me to answer, and some of you guys have asked questions. I'm going to answer those. Before we begin, The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This will be the book club book of this month. So if you guys want to read this, you can read it in the next week or two. And then it seems like most people want to do a live stream. So if you care to chime in on what time it is and what day and stuff like that, just keep an eye on my Instagram and I'll ask you guys more questions maybe in the next like week or so. And then we'll figure out a time. You know, hopefully if I could figure out how to live stream and stuff. I've never done that before, so, and I'm not really good with technology, but hopefully we can figure it out. And yeah, so keep an eye on my Instagram for that. And also if you guys care about being included for these Q&A type videos or other videos I do in the future, it's just kind of easier to ask questions on Instagram than it is on here. So let's get to these questions. What are books that affected you most when you were a teen? Interesting. I know the first kind of adult book that really affected me was Stephen King's Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I remember reading it and it being my first adult horror book, and it really just transferred me to a new place. Like I felt like I was in the woods with that little girl who was lost. I cut my bangs and I did not do too good of a job. That one, I also read The Outsiders, but I think that was in elementary school. And that book just destroyed me. But man, those are the only two that I really remember that stood out to me in that kind of area. Are you tempted to skim books near the end during action scenes? Too many details, etc. Okay, somebody asked this question before, if I peek to the end of books. That is so wild to me. No, I don't do that. I don't even like when I'm reading a book and it's leading up to something and I can, like in my periph, see the word that's like italicized or whatever. No, I don't do that. I can't believe people do that. That's crazy to me. That's too much. That's too much. Have you read Bath Salt Raccoon? Now I have to Google this. It says, move over, cocaine bear, Bath Salt Raccoon is taken over. No, but now I'm going to. Let me take a picture so I can read that guy for later. Thank you. It's by DJ James. So this sounds hilarious, but let me know if it is funny, if you're the person that has read that, because that sounds hilarious. Mary, kill, Patrick Bateman, Pinhead, and Dr. Decker. He's the mask in the Nightbreed, or in the book it's called Cabal. Oh, that's such a hard question. I think I would. Are you gonna judge me for my answer? I think I would Pinhead. Oh, this is so hard. Okay, here's the thing. Dr. Decker is an asshole, but the mask character is really cool. But he's also a serial killer. So I think I would kill him, and then I guess I'll marry Patrick Bateman just because I don't really want to live in that sort of underworld that the Cenobites live in. And Patrick Bateman may or may not be as crazy as we think he is. So I'll marry him. For the money. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, what made you want to start a YouTube channel sharing your experiences with books? Okay, this is why I don't know how to answer these questions when I have like a personal answer that I feel might be too personal. You know, like I never know how personal to talk about things or answer questions, but I guess I'll just be honest. I started this channel not long after I was going through some really hard stuff and I was in the lowest point of my life. Like I felt like nothing I said was significant. I felt like 2 inches tall all the time. Like I just felt like so unimportant in the world. I had just lost my mom, who was like my security. That's probably why I was feeling that way. But I was just feeling so low about myself. And truly, truly the reason why I started this channel was to prove to myself that what I had to say was important. And not that it mattered about like views or who watched the videos, but that I was taking a chance and posting a video online, something that I never would have done. and that I could, I don't know, try to learn and grow from that. And my God, has YouTube been so helpful for me in that regard. I mean, if you go back and watch some of my earlier videos, I would cut out any opinion that I had because I was just too scared to share my opinion or who I was. I don't know. I was in a really awful place. So that's truly why I started the YouTube channel. As it started to grow, I just realized, oh, I can connect with people about things that I'm so passionate about that I don't have people in my life who are passionate about those same things. You know, I didn't have people to talk about books with. And so yeah, it's just continued from there, and I'm so thankful for it. And I think I would still do it if I was getting one view, you know? I really do enjoy doing it. What is your biggest pet peeve as a reader? It could be writing, twists, tropes, or even book care. Okay, I don't care about book care and stuff. A lot of my books are just like older used books anyways. But what I don't like in books, one, he had gray eyes. And I understand that there are probably some people in the world that have gray eyes, but I remember one month I read 3 or 4 books in a row that the main character had gray eyes. And I was like, guys, come on. Also, purple eyes. Have you guys read that in books? Characters with purple eyes. I'm like, come on. It's just, I don't know why it irritates the crap out of me so much. One trope that really, really bothers me is she's mentally ill, therefore she's dangerous. I hate that trope. I hate it. I think it's lazy writing and it's dumb. It's just dumb, you know? So that is one trope that I don't like in writing. And then one thing that I don't like about books, I can't remember, I think maybe, is it my Kafka book that's like this? I don't like these pages, that they're uneven. Ugh, I hate it. I love this book. It's absolutely beautiful. But I know that this has a word, but I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But these uneven pages, they drive me insane. With all the awesome content you make, do you still have time to write? No, I mean, no, I do. I do have time to write. I just don't use my time accurately. And if anybody has any advice on how to create a schedule that I could stick to, I would really appreciate it, because that's what I'm having the most difficult time doing, is making time for the thing that I enjoy the most. It's very weird. It's very contradictive, because I love writing. I think about it all the time and I just don't make the effort to do it, and I hate that. Also, thank you for saying that my content is awesome. I feel like sometimes it can be very lazy, and I'm trying to work towards that and make better videos. Which horror book puts you in a childlike, nostalgic mood? Oh, you know what book actually that I did read as a kid? I was just thinking about this book actually today. This is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's a novel by David Bergantino, based on the motion pictures written by Wes Craven. And this is the cover of it. And I was thinking about it today because we've had a lot of earthquakes in LA recently, and I remember that very prominently in this book. The only other thing I remember is a dead cat in somebody's trunk of somebody's car. And then there are some pictures from the movies in here too. But this book brings me back to when I was little. I don't know how young I read it. It was my brother's copy, and I just must have taken it off his bookshelf and read it, and it scared the crap out of me. So that is definitely a horror book that brings me back to being a kid. Same, I think, with A Girl Who Loves Tom Gordon. That would probably be one too. And I'm assuming you mean adult horror books. Do you want to write a book one day? I really like your videos. Thank you. I would love to. I would love to so much. If somebody could help me figure out why I hold back on my writing. I mean, can I show you? I did start. I have started. This is the first draft of something that I was working on, and I would love to edit it. It needs a lot of work, but I mean, I've got a lot written. That's not blood, I don't think. Oh, you know what? A can of Coke exploded on my dresser. That's what that is. But anyways, so I do have stuff to work on. I also have so many ideas. I just need the push to get it done. That's really what I need. But yes, I mean, that would be my biggest goal ever. What's the strangest thing you've read about being used as a murder weapon? Oh, in Ex-Boogeyman by Christopher Triana, somebody ripped out, I mean, the killer ripped out somebody's esophagus and like beat them over the head with it. I thought that was pretty original. I think he also did it with someone's spinal column too. But yeah, that's pretty cool. No question, just wanted to say that you're fucking awesome and that you rock. That's so nice, thank you. Are you ever having little creeps, kids? I'm having some fertility type issues, so I don't know if kids are in the cards for us. I don't have the answer to that, but I'm just kind of trying to be okay with either way. Like if we do have kids or if we don't have kids, like that's just the way that it is. I don't know, but I've got some like health stuff is dramatic, but I've got some stuff going on that's, I don't know if that would be an easy thing, or it has proved to not be an easy thing for us. Horror trope in books and movies that you really don't like. Like I said, I really don't like the she's mentally ill, she's dangerous trope. That is probably my least favorite. And then something else that I don't like, it's not necessarily a trope, but I don't like in haunted house stories how if there are no rules to follow and you're thrown into this crazy world. I'm thinking specifically of Peter Straub's ghost story, how like in that book ghosts can affect your mind and make you do things, but then there's no clear-cut reason on when they can do it and when they can't. So the whole book you're reading it and you're like, was anyone making their own decisions, or is this just the ghost? That's something that I don't like, specifically about haunted ghost stories, when you're just thrown so off balance because there are no rules to follow that you're like, well, then why am I even reading this kind of thing? Are there any horror books on the horizon that you are looking forward to? Oh, let me grab something. Here is my planner. I'm looking forward to The Narrows by Ronald Malfi. He released one book this year, but this book's coming out October 8th. And then there's also another book that was released earlier this year by Joyce Carol Oates that I just learned about called Butcher, or The Butcher. And so I'm definitely gonna pick that up. I love Joyce Carol Oates. American Rapture by C.J. Lead is coming out in October as well. And I've never read anything by Nate Cassidy before, but he has a book called Rest Stop. Both of those are coming out October 15th. And the reason I wanted to read this one is I came across it. It sounded interesting. It's like some guy being trapped in a rest stop bathroom by an assailant, but somebody said it was like Green Room mixed with Gerald's Game, and Green Room is one of my favorite movies, so I thought I gotta pick that up. I also ran into a book called I Believe in Mr. Bones by Max Booth III that's coming out October 31st. That looked interesting. I've never read any of his work before, but the book looked cool, the cover looked cool, so I might pick that guy up as well. But let me know if there are any other books that are coming out that you're excited about. I'm also determined to get through all of these questions, so this might be quite a long video. Thoughts on Trainspotting, the movie and the book? I haven't read the book yet. I just read Skag Boys this year, fell in love with it, was amazed by it. I love Trainspotting the movie. It was one of my favorite movies when I was a teen. It's fantastic. The actors are amazing. The book, or the movie, is, you know, pretty disturbing, and I'm very excited to read the book because of how much I loved Skag Boys. But if you haven't read Skag Boys, I highly recommend going back and reading that one. It was published after Trainspotting, probably like a decade after Trainspotting, but it's a prequel to Trainspotting, and it's just, holy shit, one of the best books I've ever read. Favorite horror movie? This is so hard. I don't have really, I think I could list at least the top few favorite books, but movies, I don't know. I mean, obviously I love the traditional, like The Exorcist and The Shining and things like that. I really love the, what was it, 2016 Evil Dead movie. I really loved this movie. I thought that this movie was fantastically done. The practical effects are amazing. I loved it way more than the newest Evil Dead that just came out. That one felt less original to me, and it felt like a bunch of horror movies I had seen that were just kind of spliced together. Like, I'm like, oh, I've seen that before, I've seen that before, I've seen that before. It just felt like it was too influenced by other horror films. So I really do love that one. In fact, when that one came out, my brother bought it on DVD and I borrowed it so much, he was like, just take it. I'm trying to think of movies that I go back and revisit more often than other ones. I love Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love it. Maybe one day I'll make a whole video of a list of my favorite movies. Oh, Eyes Without a Face. I love that movie. It's a French horror film. I would really have to think about it. And it's been a while since I've honestly like sat down and watched some horror films, but yeah, I don't know. How do you make a dent in your TBR pile? I cannot seem to make any difference. I don't. I keep buying books, and then I read the books that I just purchased instead of all of the amazing ones. And then I come in here and I go, okay, it's time to pick out a new book to read. And I'm like, oh, I forgot I had this. I forgot I had that. I forgot I had this. It's impossible. It's impossible if you love books the way that a lot of us, I think, do. And I think that's a good thing. You know, we will never run out of material to read. So I don't think it's a bad thing that we always have a long TBR list. But one thing that I do, or that I'm trying to do, is I do read a variety of books during the month. So I try to read at least one kind of classic novel or a foreign novel or something that's a different category than I would typically read. I read obviously horror and thriller and cozy mysteries, and then sometimes I slip in a science fiction. You know, like if it's been a while since I've read sci-fi, I'll slip one in. So I try to at least have some variety. What's your favorite subgenre of horror? I think I love writing body horror, and so I think that I also enjoy reading body horror too. But man, I love everything. I love the variety of the horror genre. I think that's why I enjoy it so much, because you got, you know, if you're in the mood for some psychological stuff, you can dip into that, or if you just want some slasher, you can dip into that. There's just so much variety in horror. I also forgot to mention that probably my favorite section of literature to read is transgressive fiction. It's not that it's a subsection of horror, but it definitely can be. And a lot of the horror books that I like dabble in transgressive fiction as well. But I think me telling you that gives you a better idea for you to know what I like to read. Because if you look at transgressive fiction, so many of the books I've reviewed on my channel fit into that category. So not a subgenre of horror, but just kind of a subgenre of literature in general that I love. I also love absurdist fiction and existential fiction too. Top 3 books of all time? Oh, this is so hard. Top 3 books of all time, like my 3 favorite books of all time. Can I even do that? I don't know. Okay, Slaughterhouse-Five will have to be up there. And honestly, I don't know if it's because they're just newer reads in my head, but I would probably say Skag Boys by Irvin Welsh, and I would probably say The Necrophiliac by Gabrielle Whitcop. Those are 2 books that I read this year that actually blew me away. I've just never experienced books like that before. Skag Boys is hilarious and equal parts devastating and heartbreaking, and Gabrielle Whitcop's novel is about a necrophiliac. It's so gross and disgusting, but there's so much layered beneath it that it actually is a really beautiful read. Maybe I would say those, although I feel like I might be missing out on some really great stuff. I also love Mother Night just as much as I like Slaughterhouse-Five. I don't know. God, it's so impossible to choose 3 favorite books of all time. Did you always live in California? How did you meet your husband? Yes, always lived here my whole life, grew up here, and I live probably like 30 minutes away from like central LA. How did I meet my husband? We just met through mutual friends. We were friends for a long time, and then when my mom got really sick, he was like one of the only people who was really there for me, and then we ended up dating, and then yeah, now we're married 11 years later, which is crazy. Top 5 favorite horror movies. Gosh, this is so hard. This is so hard. I'm gonna have to do a whole dedicated video where I can sit down and really look through movies and pick my top favorites. I don't want to give you a false list. Why do you personally love horror? What's your top 5 horror authors of all time? Ooh, horror authors. So I'm going to take this as like consistent horror books that I've read. I mean, I think Stephen King is a fantastic writer. I think he is an amazing storyteller. And although not every book is a hit for me, I think a lot of his work is superb. So I would say Stephen King has to be up there. I would say Clive Barker. He's very original, very disturbing, like what is going on in that guy's mind. I love him. Maybe Dan Simmons. I haven't read too many books from him. I think I've only read 3 of his novels, but they've all been extremely well written. But there's so many amazing authors, you know? I don't know. Don't make me do that. Don't make me pick. I'll try to think if I can think of any other of my favorite horror authors of all time. It is really hard to pick the best of all time, but I do think Edgar Allan Poe fits into that category. I think I discuss him a little bit later in the video, so I won't go into too much detail, but his influence over so many things that have been written over the last few centuries is just mind-boggling. And I do think that Ronald Malfi has become one of my favorite horror writers in recent years as well. Sorry, that was my dog. Sorry. But it's so hard to pick the best overall. What's your favorite body horror book of all, or film? It's so hard. I feel like once I'm asked questions like this, my mind just goes blank. You know what movie I feel like consistently disturbs me is Eraserhead. I love that movie. I love the concept of like the fear of fatherhood coming through, and then I love how just like weird and fucked up and uncomfortable that movie makes you. It's such a great, I think, representation of what horror can do when it's done right. That's one that I love, but it's so hard to do these like favorite, you know? Maybe I'll do a whole nother video on body horror stuff because that might be fun. Do you find that having read so many extreme horror books that the shock value becomes less and therefore the bar is raised to find something more horrific than the last thing that you read? Okay, this is a great question. No, I don't. Every time I pick up a book, if I pick up a horror book, then my mind is like, okay, this is going to be a horror. You kind of know what you're going to expect. Same with extreme horror, same with a classic novel, whatever it is. I just kind of get my mindset in that, and I don't want to just read extreme horror all the time. I mean, there are other reasons why I haven't filmed that many videos of extreme horror reading vlogs this month, but like I know that's what will do best on my channel, but I'm not just going to read extreme horror for other people. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to read what I want to read. And so yeah, it's not something that I always want to read. I will say sometimes when I do pick up an extreme horror book and it's not as extreme, I'm like, well, this isn't really an extreme horror, but that's more a personal preference. And it's not that I get disappointed in it or anything like that. And to be completely honest with you, the books that disturb me the most are not extreme horror books. You know that it's going to be above and beyond and disgusting and vile when you go into an extreme horror book. But if you read something else like The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock, that's not even in the horror category. That's just a fiction novel. And that is one of the darkest books that I've ever read because it's something that either has or could potentially happen. It's just a town that everybody is just messed up to each other and they do horrible, horrendous, awful things, and there's murder and revenge and all sorts of disgusting things in there, and so much feeling and emotion as well. It's a fucked up book. So something like that, or something like, well, I'll get to the other ones later because I'm sure somebody has asked a question about like the most disturbing book that I've read. But yeah, I don't get disappointed because those aren't even really the books that disturb me the most. What's your favorite science fiction novel? This is a great question. This is a great question. Also hard to answer. I love Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the book that Blade Runner is based off of. I love Philip K. Dick books. This is my science fiction section. I loved This Perfect Day by Year 11. Oh, I love The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. I love these Blake Crouch books. These two are my favorite, Recursion and Dark Matter. Those are all fantastic science fiction-y books. I don't know, like I said, I don't know what my favorite is. It's so hard to pick favorites, but those are a handful of really great ones. Favorite horror or non-horror graphic novels? Favorite horror or non-horror graphic novels? Your channel is life-giving. You're so nice. So I don't really have or read graphic novels. The only kind of thing that I have like that, I mean, one of you just sent me one that I'm really excited to read, but the only thing that I have that's like comic booky is this Creepshow book. So it's from the movie Creepshow, and it's, yeah, a comic that was written from the movie, and it's really cool, and I really like that. Otherwise, I don't really read many graphic novels, although like I said, one of you just sent me one that I'm really excited to check out, and then maybe that'll change for me. Best zombie book. I don't know that I've read a whole bunch of zombie books, to be completely honest. Can I cheat a little bit, even though it's not about zombies, but it's called Zombie by Joyce Carol Oates? Can I cheat? Can I cheat a little? It's kind of like her take on Jeffrey Dahmer and this guy who's trying to make these, I mean, he's trying to make these like mindless zombies that will just be there for him because he doesn't know how to make or have relationships with people, and he's creepy and weird, and the book is written kind of like in journal-esque format of this serial killer, and he just like drills holes in people's brains and pours acid in them. It's a fantastic book, but it's not a zombie book. Top 3 Stephen King's. Oh man. Pet Sematary is numero uno. Probably Misery. It's so hard. I mean, The Shining is such an amazing book. I'll put up any other ones if I think of any other What do you like the most about making videos? Just talking about the thing that I'm most passionate about. And it's so cool that I get to share my passions with people, some people, and you know, some people are just as passionate as I am. I mean, I really do love reading comments. I love when you guys DM me about books. A lot of you guys recommend books to me. It's just so nice to have a community, no matter how small, of just people who love the same thing. I don't know, it shows me how the internet can be such an awesome place, because it can also be really shitty. But I think that we have something really special here. Would you consider doing a review of Christopher Triana's book? My husband and I love your videos. Thank you. I don't know if you mean a whole separate video, so let me know if that's what you mean. But I did review one of his books, or talk about them, in my wrap up last month. I read Ex-Boogeyman, and then I definitely talked about one of his other books in one of my extreme horror reading vlogs. But let me know if you want like a whole dedicated video, if that's what you mean, or what. Let me know. What are things that can put you off of a book? Things like poor writing. If somebody says haha and spells out H-A-H-A, I'm like, oi, there's some things like that put me off a book. I don't know, some books you read and you're just like, okay, this person has never read before. And I think that's so important when you're becoming a writer, is you have to read too. I mean, reading helps you significantly, even with your own writing skills. Have you ever read any Ian Reid? If not, would you be up for reading one? Love your videos. Thank you, Ian Reid. Let me see. Oh, somebody actually just told me that they really enjoyed Foe. I know that this I'm Thinking of Ending Things has kind of mixed reviews from what I remember people talking about. But yeah, definitely that Foe book, somebody had recommended to me before, and I was like, okay, maybe I should pick that up. So yeah, definitely, I will. Any dream destinations for travel? Okay, that was one, and then I did get another one. Is there a country you would love to visit one day? I'm not huge on traveling, if I'm completely honest. I just have some like health stuff, sounds so dramatic, but I don't feel great a lot, and so it's difficult to plan trips, and a lot of times I end up feeling like crap on a trip, and it's more stressful than it is fun for me. So I don't really travel that much. If I was like healthy and I could eat whatever I wanted and like stuff didn't make me sick, it would be different. So I don't really have any destinations for travel now, but if eventually I did feel better, I would love to visit things. I don't know that I have a dream destination, but after reading Skag Boys, I would love to visit Scotland. My husband, both of his parents are from El Salvador, and so we planned a trip to go visit his family that he's never met before this year. I'm very nervous about it. I don't know how I'm gonna feel. I don't know how I'm gonna do, but that'll be kind of my tester to see how the trip goes. If you could live 10 different lives for 100 years each, or one life for 1,000 years, which one would you choose and why? Okay, I would choose 10 different lives for 100 years. This is gonna be a kind of floofy answer, but because I feel like if reincarnation does exist, I feel like you'll always find the people you're supposed to find, you know? And one life for 1,000 years, I don't want to live 1,000 years more with the people that I have already lost. Like, I don't want to be away from them for that long. So yeah, I would definitely pick the first one. Book that made you lose sleep. Oh, yes. Let me grab it. The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. This is what I'm saying with like extreme books, extreme horror books, they're fun and everything, and sometimes it's great just being grossed out. But this book fucked me up. This is based on a true story, so you know that this actually happened. It's just this young girl that experienced crazy amounts of torture and pain and horrible mistreatment. But what makes it even more disturbing is it's told through the eyes of a child. So I think there were multiple movies and stuff made from this real story, and I have seen one of them, but yeah, there's just something about having a child tell this story that makes it even more horrendous. This book sucked. I mean, it was a great book and well written, but it did its job, you know what I mean? But it sucks to get through. What would be your death row final meal? I feel like you would have to have just all of your favorite stuff. So like steak, for sure. Steak is my favorite food of all time. I would have to have a steak, a filet. What is my cat getting into? I feel like I would have to have some Thai food. I love Thai food. I also really love pho. I feel like I'd have to have a little bit of that. Boba, of course, I would have to have boba. Chocolate chip cookies. Oh man, there's so many things that I would want for my last meal. But yeah, I think just like a little of all of my favorite foods, but for sure a filet. Okay, this one says, do you read graphic novels or comics? If so, any of your favorites? So yeah, no, I don't really have any of those that I've read. Scariest book you've ever read that had to do with haunting, demons, and paranormal, or slash paranormal. This I've talked about before, but I will show you. This is the most disturbing haunted book that I've read. It's called Haunted Horror of Haverford West. This is by G.L. Davies, and this is supposedly a true story about G.L. Davies living in this haunted house and what happened. So basically, he lived in this haunted house. He published the book of his experiences of all the horrendous things that have happened. Then a couple approached him and said, I know what house you're talking about because we lived there too. And so the second half of the book is their experience, or maybe vice versa. Maybe theirs is first and whatever. But this is so terrifying to think that this has actually happened to somebody and that they've gone through this kind of stuff. I also really like this book because at the end, he goes through and talks of all other potential things that it could have been other than a haunting. Like, he's definitely open to other ideas and not just saying, for sure, ghosts were trying to kill me. But it is honestly terrifying, and I really want to read that book again. But yeah, if you want to be creeped out, read that. I think true story kind of things freak me out more, knowing that it has or could potentially happen. What is one off-brand, not horror, thriller, etc. that you would recommend to everyone? I think this one has to be Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I mean, he is such a wonderful writer. This book really did change the way that I perceive literature. It is fantastic. It is such a great book. It's an anti-war book. It discusses his, I guess, experience with the war, because Kurt had been in World War II, but then it's told through, not him, it's not like an autobiography. It's told through the eyes of an optometrist, and the timelines are really funky, and also aliens, and it's just a really interesting anti-war book. Kurt Vonnegut's perception of time as all things happening all at once, I don't know, he is just amazing and fantastic, and I feel like you need to know the rules of literature so well to be able to bend them the way that Kurt Vonnegut does, but still make the story interesting, and I highly recommend this to anybody. So if you haven't read that, you should. Your top 5 horror books. Okay, no particular order. The Terror by Dan Simmons, Pet Sematary by Stephen King, American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Oh, The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. Yeah, I think those are probably my top 5. Oh, I really love Carmilla too. Oh, Who Goes There by John Campbell. That's the novella that the movie The Thing is based on. That is one of my favorite science fiction stories of all time. Favorite book character. I think that this might be a cop-out, but because I've read so many of these cozy mysteries, I've really gotten to know Lottie Lemon. This is so... If you would have told me a few years ago that I would be this obsessed with this cutesy little baker story, I would have been like, you're insane. There's no way. But I adore these books, and I really do like the main character of Lottie. She's so fun and so willing to put herself in danger for the safety of others, to seek justice, but then she also is so willing to call out her own bullshit, and she doesn't need someone to save her. She can just go do her own thing. But she's also kind, but she's funny, and she also talks shit about people, but not in a mean way. And I just love her. I do, I love her. So I think because I spent more time with that character than any other character, I have to say her. Character you identify yourself with. I don't know if there's like one specific book that I can think of that I'm like, oh, I definitely am like this person. But I feel like Riley Sager books, I always connect with his female characters. He does a really great job of writing females that don't quite feel like they fit in, that feel kind of like oddballs, who want to be part of the cool group but like just aren't, and I really connect with them. And then controversial character that you like. I'll say Patrick Bateman, just because people hate American Psycho and it's such a controversial book in itself, but I love that book. I adore that book. I wouldn't say I love Patrick Bateman or anything, but I do love the book. And I do think that he is somewhat a product of his own environment, regardless of whether that is his fault that he's in that environment or not. What was your first reaction to disturbing reads, and what made you stay with that genre? I don't know. I've always... There's another question later on too about why I love horror so much. It's always been something that I've been interested in. I read these Bailey School Kids books when I was younger that were kind of like thriller mystery books for kids. I read them even before I read Goosebumps, but then of course I read Goosebumps too. I also had a lot of older siblings. My dad was married like 4 different times, so I had stepbrothers, half brothers, real brothers, and so a lot of my influence came from older people. So I watched a lot of horror movies as a kid, and as a baby, they terrified me. They gave me horrendous nightmares. And then eventually, when they didn't scare me anymore, I got this sense of power, being able to control my mind, knowing that something was real and something was fake. And it was such a powerful feeling as a kid, and it's something that I've just always loved. And yeah, I don't know, but I loved it. I don't know what my first reaction to disturbing reads were, but I know that I've always loved darker stuff. I mean, even like Alice Cooper's music, I would listen to his music when I was, you know, a kid, a baby. I was grown up basically on Alice Cooper, and he had this VHS in the 90s where he took his Welcome to My Nightmare album from the 70s and he made it into these like skits with Vincent Price. Yeah, so they were skits, but then he also had his songs playing in them, and then he did little skits for each song. And even stuff like that, like I joked that I felt like Cold Ethel was where my weirdness began, because it's literally a song about f***ing a dead body. And so I've just always loved really dark stuff. I would say in my teens is where I started watching more messed up movies. You know, like in high school, I really sought out foreign films and disturbing films and Itchy the Killer type stuff, like torture porn, I guess is what people would call it. I've just always loved horror, and I think my favorite thing about horror is there's so much to explore. And even this year, I mean, the last year or two is the first year that I started reading splatterpunk. Even though I've always loved disturbing reads and more messed up books, this was my first time kind of diving into those. And at first I was like, oh, you know, why would somebody write this? This is horrible. But then it's kind of like getting a tattoo. You get a little bit addicted to it, and you want to read more, and you want to see what else the genre has to offer. And then you read more authors, and some of it's so fucking beautifully written, but also disturbing at the same time. I just really enjoy the variety in the horror genre. Which It movie do you like the most? The TV series or the movie? The TV series. And you're one of my favorite booktubers. Thank you, that's so nice. I always feel weird saying that like I'm a YouTuber, because like, I don't know, it's just so weird. I'm just a loser who likes to talk about books. No hate to the new films, you know, that's great and everything, but I don't think that you could beat Tim Curry. I didn't like the new clown. I didn't think he was scary. I thought he was more just like, you know, looked a little mentally unstable than anything. He didn't really scare me. He just like, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. So definitely the TV series. Also, I grew up in the 90s, so I feel like I grew up with that. I had an older brother. My older brother was definitely a reason why I got into horror as well, and he loves the It miniseries, so I feel like I'm also a little bit biased there too. Have you ever written a book or a short story? Tell us a little bit about it. Yeah, I do write, and I actually in the link I have some stories reading you the story, so you don't have to read it. So yeah, you can listen to them down there if you're interested. Have you ever thought of making a Patreon or having a Discord group? I have, but one, I've been so inconsistent with my videos that I'm scared to, or I wouldn't want someone to pay for something that I couldn't keep up with. And two, I'm already doing the videos that I like here, so I have no idea what I would even put on Patreon. And Discord, I don't even know what that is. I've tried to figure it out. I don't know what I'm doing. Similar books to the sluts that you liked. I don't know what you mean by similar. If you mean disturbing, I definitely know that books that come up when you Google books like The Sluts are like American Psycho or Story of the Eye, which those are disturbing and gross, you know, if that's what you're looking for. Or I don't know if you mean like the angle of a gay man. In that case, Thomas More's In Their Arms is a good one to pick out, or also Dennis Cooper's The George Miles series of books. Those would be good too. Or even like a Bret Easton Ellis, The Shards maybe too, because that has a lot of kind of coming of age and and gay relationships as well. So I'm not sure what you mean by similar, but if you're talking about the writing style, that book is so freaking original. I don't think that there's anything like it. How do you read so many books per month? Can you speed read? No TV. Okay, no, I don't speed read. I actually, for how long I've been reading, because I've been obsessed with books since I could talk. For how long I've been reading, I am a slow reader. I don't watch TV. So yeah, I'm sure that that does help, because I know a lot of people can get sucked into TV and stuff. I just don't really like it, to be honest. The TV is never on in my house unless we're watching a movie. But how do I read so many books? Okay, there's a few factors. And not all of it is good. Like, to be honest, the last few years where I've read the most have been not great. Like this year I had a bunch of health stuff going on. From January to May, I was in so much pain where I was not leaving the house. I was not doing anything. And then it turned out I had an ovarian cyst that ruptured. That was so fun. But anyways, I'm still in some pain, but not anything compared to what I was in. So this year, a lot of it has been health related. I think it's so easy to, and not saying that you're comparing yourself to anybody who reads a lot, but it is really easy to compare yourself to other people and be like, oh, I didn't read as many books, or I wasn't able to do what that person did. And I think it's a lot easier to belittle yourself when you're comparing yourself to other people. A lot of the times when I've read the most, I've had the most shit going on. So it's not always a good thing. But I will say that I do make the time to read. My minimum reading is 20 pages a day. Anybody could read 20 pages. You just have to make the effort to do it. And then obviously I try to read 100 pages a day. I try to read more than that. That's my main goal. But I do make an effort. I don't like TV. And I don't have a crazy amount of other hobbies. And that's another thing too. Some people are like, oh, you know, I wish I could read that much. And I'm like, why? You have 100 hobbies that you're doing. Like, I know that this person who wrote this, I know you're writing way more than I am. I wish I was in your position. You get what I'm saying? People have also said like, oh, I'm such a slow reader. I'm like, that's just more time you get to spend with a book. Do you know how many times I finish a book and I go, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't read that in a day or two. It's a good thing. It is a good thing. Are you a Ray Bradbury fan? Yes. I love Ray Bradbury. Here's my section back here. Favorite from him is The October Country. Those are his like Halloween-y type of short stories, but I mean, yeah, One More for the Road and The Martian Chronicles and all sorts of things. He is a fantastic writer. I absolutely love him. What other hobbies are you into aside from reading? Want a duo on Elden Ring with me? What the fuck is Elden Ring? Video game. Yeah, no, I don't play video games. My husband probably would though. He does love video games. No, yeah, I don't really like much else. I mean, I like walking my dogs. I like going hiking. Sometimes we play disc golf, but yeah, I don't have crazy many other hobbies. Like sitting at home and reading with my dogs is like my favorite thing, or getting a boba and then reading with my dogs, or going and playing Mario Party and then coming home and reading with my dogs. Yeah, but yeah, no, I don't play video games. I'm very bad at them. And you wouldn't want to play with me. I would just get everyone killed. If you could swap yourself with the main character of any story, which would it be? I would just want to live in Honey Hollow with Lottie Lemon for a little while. I would switch to her friend just because life can get so, you know, like heavy, and it would be so nice to escape. I mean, the books are escape enough, but you know what I mean. Pure nosiness here, but what does that tattoo on the side of your thumb say? It says, keep on writing. And before my mom passed away, she wrote everybody letters in our house, in our family. This is something that she wrote in mine. But when she was sick, before, when I was taking care of her, I was reading her some of the stories that I was writing. So like the last few months of her life, she got to listen to me read her a bunch of stories, and we talked about how important literature was to me and stuff. And so yeah, that was really cool. So I tattooed it on there to remind myself to keep on writing, and then I have failed miserably at it. I also have a heart that she drew. I also have her signature here on my foot, right there. And then this tattoo is a clover that her and I got before she got sick, because my birthday's on St. Patrick's Day, and everything that she's ever purchased for me has had a clover on it. What is my cat doing out there? Oh, hold on, let me make sure I didn't lock her out. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, you guys, I went to the garage because I was trying to find something earlier, and I locked her in the garage, and she's been in there for like an hour. Oh, I'm such a piece of crap. Don't worry, she'll get a big treat later. Man, I still have a lot to get through. Okay, let's try to answer these quickly. If you could remove one character from a book, who would it be? Keep in mind that it would change the story. Heathcliff. Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights. I don't care. The story would be so much better if he didn't exist. I would go into the story and then I would off him because I hate him. What's your favorite horror movie? Okay, answer that one. Which deceased author would you have liked to meet? Kurt Vonnegut. My God, I would love to have met him. I would also, if I could pick anybody in history, Edgar Allan Poe. Oh, he has been such a huge influence on so many centuries of writing. It's amazing that his work is as prevalent today, I feel like, as it's ever been. His work is amazing, so definitely him. Let me close the blinds really quick. No question, just thank you and please read We Used to Live Here. Okay, I will. I'll add that one to my list. Have you read December Park? What got you into horror? I think December Park, yeah, is a Ronald Malfi book. I have not read this one yet, but now that you mention it, I will definitely give it a read. I think I talked about what got me into horror, yeah. What do you think is the best book to screen adaptation that you've seen? Ooh, this is a good question. I mean, there's ones that are definitely equal or just as good in different ways. You know, like The Shining is very different from the book, but it's still an amazing movie. The Exorcist, both are fantastic. Rosemary's Baby, both are fantastic. To be honest, you didn't say horror, did you? You just said best book. To be honest, I just read Jurassic Park and I was really surprised that they got that movie from that book. So I think it was one of the best movies ever made. I mean, it still holds up to this day. There are also other great ones like Audition, where the book is kind of whatever and then the horror movie is like pretty messed up, you know? But yeah, maybe Jurassic Park. Read The Mariner by Aid Grant. Okay, I will add that one to my list as well. Have you considered / thought about publishing physical copies of your fiction? Of course, yeah, definitely. I just gotta get on my shit. I gotta stop being a loser and get on it. Have you seen Alien Romulus yet? No, I have not, but I have heard wonderful things about it. I'll probably not see it in theaters and I'll probably see it when it comes out on streaming, but no, I have not watched it yet. Any upcoming releases that you're super excited about? We talked about that. What book would you recommend to someone who is in a reading slump? Okay, this is a great question. These aren't horror books, but I would definitely recommend Recursion or Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I think the best thing I can recommend for someone in a reading slump is a book that you cannot put down. And so I think both of these are more sci-fi thriller books, but fantastic. Horror-wise, a Darcy Coates book. They are just so impossible to put down. There's so many great ones. There's some that aren't my favorite, of course, but a lot of the ghosty type ones, they're just like fun, creepy, easy to digest horror books that you really can't put down. So I think those would be great for somebody in a reading slump. How do you take care of your mental health after reading extreme horror books? I think I just have variety in what I read. I don't just read extreme horror, and if a book really does disturb me, I take time off from it, you know? But like I said, the extreme horror ones aren't the ones that mess me up. They're more books like this that do. But yeah, like a book like this I would not read over and over again. I would definitely take a lot of time off. What are your thoughts on the new season of Frasier? Okay, so I haven't watched it, and I mean, I love Frasier as a character, of course, but Niles Crane and Marty Crane were my two favorites. And so an episode or a series without them, because Marty has obviously since passed away, Martin Crane, and then obviously, I don't think Eddie is alive, probably, right? I don't even know if the girls, if Daphne and Ross are in the new series, but I know that I read an article that his brother, or the actor, said that he wouldn't be revising his role because he had nothing new to add to the character. So I don't think I would watch it without them. But let me know if you guys have seen it, and if it's good, let me know. But I do love Frasier. He's such a psycho. What do you do if a book really upsets you or makes you uncomfortable? A book like this, yeah, I just read it really slowly, and sometimes if there's a book, and it doesn't even have to be something that's like this, it could even be a book that's just very hard to digest, like it's not easy writing, or it's about a tough subject matter, or even if it's a book that's just big, sometimes I'll read 2 books at once. Maybe a book like The Terror, I don't think I did this with that one, but if a book is like a very dense, sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll read 50 pages of that, a day, and then I'll read 50 pages of a thriller a day. So it doesn't feel like I'm bogged down by too heavy of material or a subject matter or what have you. Woo! Wow, that was a lot of information. So thank you for anybody who wrote in on Instagram. I just wanted to make sure that I read all of them and answered all of them, so, or to the best of my ability. I think I took a few shortcuts here and there, but thank you so much for watching. I'm really hoping that I can get this video out and then I can have a more consistent schedule going forward. That is my plan for you, I promise. I'm gonna try to upload Sundays and Thursdays from here on out. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any other comments down below or any answers to these questions yourself. And I will see you soon with another horror video. Bye guys! Sorry, Morella.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.